Have you ever met someone who seemed to thrive on admiration, constantly seeking the spotlight, and displaying an almost unshakable confidence? Perhaps they had an aura of superiority that made you feel like you were always secondary to their greatness. This person might have been a narcissist, a term that has come to define people who exhibit grandiosity, a need for excessive admiration, and a lack of empathy. But what truly strikes at the heart of a narcissist? What is the one thing that hurts them more than anything else? Something that they might try to avoid at all costs. Stay with us as we explore what happens when a narcissist is truly wounded, and why understanding this can offer powerful insights into their behavior. Imagine a person who appears to be invincible, someone who seems to never be shaken by criticism or rejection. But beneath that facade, there is a fragile core that is vulnerable to a particular kind of pain that cuts deeper than any insult or judgment could. In this video, we're diving into the psychology of narcissism, uncovering the hidden vulnerabilities that make narcissists more sensitive than they appear, and revealing the one thing that can hurt them like nothing else. Before we dive into this eye-opening exploration, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with anyone who might find this discussion valuable. You won't want to miss what's coming next, so let's get started. Narcissists, as we often encounter in everyday life, have a complex and deeply ingrained psychological structure. They may appear self-assured, assertive, and even arrogant, yet their inner world is a far cry from the confident exterior they project. A key factor in understanding narcissism lies in realizing that beneath all the bravado, narcissists live in a constant state of insecurity. This insecurity is what drives many of their behaviors, constantly seeking validation, admiration, and attention to prop up their fragile self-esteem. Now, you might wonder, what is it that truly hurts them? What can break through the layers of defense they've built around themselves? The answer may surprise you: the loss of control and the feeling of being irrelevant. You see, narcissists are deeply invested in maintaining their status, image, and perception of superiority. They thrive on admiration and the constant reflection of their grandiosity in the eyes of others. But when they are ignored or dismissed, when their importance is questioned or undermined, it can lead to an intense emotional reaction. This feeling of being irrelevant, of not being the center of attention, can trigger a profound sense of worthlessness. And that's when the true pain sets in. One of the most significant ways this manifests is through emotional withdrawal or aggressive outbursts. When their need for attention goes unmet, or their image is threatened, narcissists may react with anger, defensiveness, or even passive-aggressive behavior. This is because their ego is directly tied to how others perceive them. So, when they feel disregarded, it's as if their entire identity is called into question. Let's take a closer look at how this plays out. Imagine a narcissist who has always been the life of the party, the one who always has the most exciting stories, the most attention, and the loudest voice in the room. Now, what happens when, for once, the spotlight shifts to someone else? They may try to dominate the conversation, overshadow the other person, or even make disparaging remarks to regain their place in the center. The underlying fear is simple: if I am not the center, I don't exist. The threat of being forgotten is a deep wound for narcissists. This need for control is not just limited to social situations, but extends to their relationships. Narcissists often gravitate toward partners, friends, or colleagues who reinforce their sense of superiority. They may manipulate, control, or belittle others to ensure they are always in charge. But if someone challenges their authority or shows independence, it can feel like a betrayal. The narcissist may react with cold indifference, or worse, retaliatory behavior, trying to reassert dominance and regain control over the situation. In extreme cases, narcissists may experience a complete breakdown of their identity. They depend on others to mirror their sense of worth. When they're met with rejection or apathy, it triggers a narcissistic injury, which is the emotional wound caused by the realization that they are not as important or special as they believe themselves to be. This injury can leave them feeling devastated and vulnerable, much like a person who has been humiliated or abandoned by those they trust. But it's important to understand that narcissists rarely confront their vulnerabilities head-on. Instead, they deflect or suppress these feelings with defensive mechanisms such as denial, projection, or blaming others. For example, if someone criticizes their behavior, the narcissist might turn the criticism back on the other person, accusing them of being jealous, incompetent, or unfair. This is their way of protecting their fragile ego from the pain of self-doubt. Moreover, the fear of being irrelevant can also be tied to aging and losing physical appeal. For many narcissists, their image and outward appearance are everything. When their looks begin to fade, or when they face the reality of growing older, it can trigger a profound existential crisis. This fear is not just about losing beauty, but about losing their identity as someone who is admired and desired. The aging process can expose their deep fear of becoming insignificant, and this may lead to anxiety, depression, or even drastic attempts to hold on to their youth through cosmetic procedures or extreme behavior. Another aspect of narcissistic vulnerability is failure, especially failure in areas where they once felt invincible. A narcissist who experiences public failure, whether in their career, relationships, or personal life, may react with extreme shame, often masking it with anger or aggression. The inability to succeed or maintain their usual level of admiration can feel like a personal catastrophe. They may struggle with accepting failure, as it threatens the very foundation of their identity. Interestingly, narcissists may be acutely aware of their own flaws and vulnerabilities, but they often refuse to acknowledge them. This is because doing so would require them to confront the very thing they fear the most, their own inadequacy. Rather than deal with these feelings of helplessness or insecurity, they project their flaws onto others, constantly looking for someone to blame for their misfortunes. So, what can you do if you encounter a narcissist who seems untouchable? Understanding that their behavior is a defense mechanism is key. They're not as confident as they appear, and deep down, they're constantly battling the fear of being unimportant or irrelevant. It's not easy to navigate relationships with narcissists, but empathy and boundaries can help. As we wrap up this deep dive into the narcissist psyche, remember, what hurts them the most is not necessarily a harsh word or criticism. It's the fear of being overlooked, irrelevant, and powerless. When their grandiose sense of self is threatened, they experience emotional pain that, for them, can feel like a complete unraveling of their identity. Thanks for sticking with us through this complex and insightful exploration of narcissism. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with friends who may benefit from understanding these dynamics. Stay curious and remember, understanding the human psyche is the first step toward healthier relationships and self-awareness. See you in the next video.